Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So today I'm going to be sharing a product with you that I was skeptical of at first because I had used similar products, cheaper products, which I found on Amazon, and they just worked terribly. They didn't do what I wanted them to do, which is boil water very fast or cook things very fast. And this stove, I had my doubts because of the price point. It's a $79 stove, $80 stove. We do sell these at CanadianPreparedness.com now because I have had a chance to test them out, and man, they are just freaking awesome stoves. That's all I can say. I mean, this stove also fits into the bug out roll, so if you have a bug out roll and you need a stove, this is the one you're going to want in there. I don't think I'll go back to using, well, I probably won't go back to ever using my solo stove, but even though that's a great stove, don't get me wrong, the solo stoves are excellent. But this stove, because of its portability, wins in my opinion. Now, there's also a smaller version of this, which is called the Nano, and that one also comes in titanium. We do sell both of those at CanadianPreparedness.com. We ship to the United States, free shipping over $75 to Canada and over $250 to the US. I'm just blown away at how easy it is to set up and how easy it is to function. And the build quality is just phenomenal. This is made in the USA. 99% of the stuff that you find on my website is going to either be made in Japan, Canada, the United States, or somewhere in Europe. So I take a lot of pride in my website in only offering the best tools that you're only going to need to buy once. And trust me, this is one of those things that you're going to buy it once and you're not going to regret it. Now, this is not as fast as a jet boil. It's not as fast as an MSR wind burner stove, but there's things that this can do that can. Namely, this can double as a fireplace to keep you warm. It can also just have an infinite amount of fuel. So if you're going on an extended trip and you needed something to cook with for a long period of time, then this would be something that you would want. The other factor is the serenity factor, and just the idea that it's nice to sit and make a fire with natural combustibles. I just feel that the food tastes better when you do it, when you take a bit more time with things. As amazing as gas stoves are at cooking food very fast in every way, in my opinion, they don't simulate that rustic camping experience that we're all trying to get when we escape out into the wilderness, and there's something to be said about that. But what the Firebox provides in that, it doesn't sacrifice in burn time. It boils water very quickly. So I'm going to talk about that here in a video demo today, so sit back and enjoy. Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. So today I'm going to be doing a demo of the Firebox stove, my new favorite stove. Formerly it was the solo stove in terms of the infinite combustible stoves. What I mean by that are stoves that just use wood or any sort of combustible that you can find in your environment. And of course, for short-term trips, my MSR wind burner or the jet boil system are perfectly good systems for that. But if you're wanting something a bit more rustic but still functions amazingly well, the Firebox is definitely where it's at. And this thing is heavy. It's got a lot of weight to it. Weight is quality. I've used some of the other folding stoves on Amazon, and they just don't compare in terms of the build quality and just the design in general. And Firebox is made in the USA as well, so that's kind of cool. So this is probably still full of soot from the last time. That's the only problem with a stove like this, is you're going to have soot. There's not much you can do about it. If you don't know what that is, that's this black stuff. It washes off easily. My friend Frank over at the Fat Rope Stick company, the company that makes fat rope, he gave me a bunch of different tips on how to minimize soot. All right, so the ash plate covers it. And the cool thing about this stove is that it's super fast to set up. So you basically just go like that. Now you're going to notice it's kind of trapezoidal. It's not a perfect square, and they do that so you can fold it up. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to fold up. One of the sections has to be smaller to allow it to fold up like that. Not a big deal. Doesn't affect the performance of the stove at all. So the ash plate goes in just underneath like that. So you're going to want to use this on a surface which is not going to catch fire. Obviously, it's not like a gas stove where you could just set it down on any sort of plastic or whatever. You want to set it down on something like a stump or something which is not going to ignite right away. So how it works is pretty simple. Just take these two prongs here, just like so. And what I'll do, without getting my pants too dirty, take my Benchmade, use some waxwood stick. Now I don't need this because I have lots of birch bark here, but this is one of the coolest fire starters out there. I have lots of fat wood, so I don't need to use this either. But for those of you who don't have access to fat wood, this stuff is just great. It's a wonderful fire starter, and it's very smooth and it burns very well. It takes a spark like you wouldn't believe. Not that I'm going to be sparking it today. I'm just going to be using matches. Probably all we need. Put a little bit more on there, just because it's so nice to cut this stuff. Curls very nicely, as you can see. One of these will last you for a real long time. You don't need much. See, it does take the spark almost immediately. It'll actually take a spark a little bit faster than the fat rope stuff, but it's not as, I hate throwing this word around because it gets used so often, but it's not as versatile. You can do a bit more with the fat rope stick. And the fat rope burns a little longer, I find. So we'll just light that up. Takes right away. Throw in a little bit of birch bark. Throw in some smaller stuff. And there's these two feed holes. I'll probably have to move my wood pile. There's two feed holes. And there's a bit of a wood gas effect because it's pulling in oxygen from all around, so it really feeds the fire quite easily. And you could just stick your wood in there like that. One of my concerns with this stove was going to be the boil times, because I've used other stoves off Amazon like this, like I said, namely by a company called Lexidia, and didn't work too well. There was a very slow burn time on it. The Lexidia stoves, they're not very stable. They take a bit more time to set up, and they don't burn as well. They won't boil water as fast, and it's a significant difference. It's about time I throw that on there. Take our pot, which is more soot than pot, throw it on there. Now, one of the tips that Frank from the Fat Rope Stick company had made was that you shouldn't have the flame too high because that's going to create a lot of soot. And what he recommended was that you get a bunch of coals in there first, and then you put your pot on, and it will just cook from the coals. And this thing will hold a significant amount of coals within it. The problem with that is time. You know, it's going to take you more time to get the coals built up. It's going to take you maybe 10 minutes or so. And if you're like me, you just want to get things done, then you don't really have time to waste. So a little bit of soot is not going to kill me. It's not, you know, the best thing to have to clean up afterwards, but depending on your situation, you might not have to clean it every single time either. It's not going to kill you. It's just ash. So you can see we got a really big flame right now. So it doesn't take long for this wood gas stove to get to work. Would serve a good function just as a little fireplace too in the winter time. outside use, of course. So yeah, and as that wood burns, you just keep feeding it in there. Right now we got some real high heat going on. I'm just gonna turn this around so it'll melt that. I didn't even put much wood in there. There's a bit of smoke, but not that much. And that's a good sign that you're burning everything up. The burn times are excellent. Now there are a few accessories you can get for the stove. There's a couple other accessories. You don't get the case with it. You have to buy the case separate. We sell these at CanadianPreparedness.com. It's 79 bucks for the stove and 20 bucks for the case. It's a Cordura case, so very heavy duty, and you're gonna want the case. I mean, it's not necessary, but you're probably gonna want the case. It's just a wonderful stove though. And I would say that, you know, a jet boil is gonna boil your food in boil your water, I should say, probably in a couple minutes. But this isn't too far behind. It doesn't take a lot of maintenance. The Solo stove is a good stove, but I find depending on which size you get, if you get the small one, there's gonna be a bit more maintenance. And what I mean by that is you're constantly gonna have to be feeding little twigs in there and stuff because it's not as large. And once this fire's roaring, you just throw anything in there, it's gonna incinerate it. And this water is already starting to boil. It won't be long now, maybe a minute or so. We've used it on windy days and still performs very well. There are wind blocks you can get. There's a grill you can get for it. Things which I personally don't have a whole lot of use for. But see, I put that birch bark in there and it just, you know, really need to see the flames here. Of course, we were already boiling, just like that. And so that's it. Didn't take long at all. Took a couple minutes, and we got our water. Put that in there for now. We sell the waxwood stick. Also, we sell Mountain House food. Easily the best food, because all you got to do is take your water, pour it on in there, just like that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So if you want one of these, go check it out, CanadianPreparedness.com. This is something which is definitely going on my top 10 backpacking list. So thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.